But I wanted to touch on what marketing is and go back to some lead generation marketing 101. So when I ask people what is marketing, I like to ask an audience. Now, normally they don't have the slide deck. You guys have the slide deck, so it steals my thunder. And if I asked and polled all of you, what is marketing, you would just flip to the next slide and see what I'm giving as a definition. But what I find if I haven't given you the answer, what I typically find is people say, well, to get my name out there, or to generate some awareness, to build my brand. I mean, some people will say, hey, to generate leads, that's what marketing should do. And the reason I want you to get clear on what the purpose of marketing is and how do you know when it's working is because if you are going to invest any time, money, and effort and energy into it, you need to know how it's working. And I have a lot of frustrated marketing managers that come to my office, that email, that call, and they say, I'm stuck because the boss he ain't happy with me. Or it's the owner calling in saying, I'm not happy with my marketing manager, how do I fix him, or whatever. And it's because the CEO hired the marketing manager. In his mind, he was thinking, oh, I see dollar signs. I want more money, but you articulated, and I want to let's get our name out there. So the marketing manager's getting your name out there. They're running ads. They're, maybe buying a booth at a trade show. They're buying billboards. They're doing whatever they're doing. And it's not generating leads and it's not generating sales, and you're frustrated, and quite honestly, they're frustrated because you said you wanted to get the name out there. So you got to be really crystal clear on what good marketing is and what it should do, okay? Because good marketing is marketing that produces the result. That's it. It's not like it doesn't look a certain way or act a certain way. It produces the result. So marketing, in my estimation, I talked about this earlier, it should facilitate and accelerate the sales process by attracting right fit prospects, pre-selling them, and predisposing them to do business with you. So how that shows up is you are getting leads coming in, you are going on appointments that are qualified, that are interested prospects, not lay down sales, because you might have a dysfunctional sales process, but that are good qualified prospects that are calling your office. But the key points you guys all need to understand, and this is for even my producers club and my accelerators, because you guys know that you're more entrenched in the marketing. Marketing doesn't replace prospecting and selling. It does not replace that. It facilitates it. It can make it easier, but it doesn't replace prospecting and selling. And to secure new clients, you need a consistent, focused outbound prospecting effort, because another thing I hear often from people calling the office, they go, Robin, I'm doing your marketing and it's not working. Well, what do you mean it's not working? What are you doing specifically? Well, I'm sending out a newsletter every month, and I'm sending out the tech tip postcard, and I'm doing a blog post every month, and I'm posting on LinkedIn, and I'm posting on Facebook. See, all that's passive. All of that is passive. Newsletters and drip marketing, tech tip postcard, you need it because it's drip marketing, but it's passive. It's not written to get an appointment like the stupid irresponsible letter or the sneaky duck campaign I'm going to give you, right? All right, that's all passive. There needs to be a direct prospecting effort where someone is calling on, specifically emailing a prospect and trying to get that appointment to either follow up on the marketing, or the marketing itself needs to create a need for an appointment. Sending out a newsletter does not do that. Sending out a newsletter sort of keeps the pot warm, if you will, right? Until, keeps that relationship going, keeps them engaged, keeps your name, and that's all important. But if you're not doing the prospecting with it, adding fresh new leads to your unconverted leads to your list, then none of it matters, okay? So my marketing, again, to be clear, does not replace the sales and prospecting effort that still needs to be done, okay? All right, so let's talk about lead generation 101. When I see most people doing marketing, the best example I found was there's a South Park episode called the Underpants Gnomes, okay? Now, let me show you this, okay? So how many of you, I'm not a big South Park fan, but I saw this one episode, it made me laugh, right? It's the Underpants Gnomes who are... I'll play the video in a minute. They're going to get the video right. But the whole plot of the story is one of the kids, I don't even know which one it is, one of the kids is laying in bed at night and he notices this underwear gnome coming into his bedroom, stealing his underwear. And this disturbs him. So he tells his friends and they hang out for the night and they say, okay, we're going to watch these Underpants Gnomes and sure enough, Underpants Gnomes comes in that night and has the, stealing the underwear, and they all turn the lights on and they jump out and go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, it's part of a business plan that we have. It's this business plan where we steal the underwear and then we profit." And so I'll play the video, but let me tell you this. This is how most business owners do marketing. Like they say, or content marketers do this. Do content, post content, make money, right? So that's they forget the step in between. So step 1, post content. Step 2, step 3, make money, right? And you see, that's not how it works. You actually, we're going to talk about email marketing today, right? So people are shooting out emails. Guy calls me the other day, "Rob, my emails aren't working." Okay, well, let me see what the emails. Well, first of all, it's a big HTML newsletter. So there's multiple articles. When I click on the article, it takes me to some random web page. There's no phone number, there's no opt-in form, there's no offer, there's nothing. It's just an article about how to pick a firewall. Well, how does that lead to profit? How does that email generate the appointment? It doesn't. It doesn't even go to your website. It's going to somewhere else. "Oh, but I'm doing your marketing." No, you're not, right? No, you're not. That's not prospecting, right? So whatever campaign you do, there's a different in purpose. There's drip campaigns and then there's prospecting campaigns. And if the prospecting campaign is designed to generate a lead, then we have to engineer everything in the strategy to generate a lead. So let me play the Underpants Gnomes so you guys get a sense for this, all right?
Does anybody know anything about corporations? I think my mom is a corporation. Yeah, that makes sense. You guys! Well, how about we just say corporate should be stopped? How do we stretch that into 5 minutes? You're taking my underpants! Will you stop with the underpants, Gnomes? Tweak, we have to work here. What the hell? Well, I be damned. That's my last pair of underpants! Search for underpants. Shh, don't scare him. Hey there, little guy. Dude, why are you taking Tweak's underpants? Yeah, look what you're doing to this poor kid.
Stealing underpants, big business.
Business? Wait, do you know anything about business?
Sure, that's what gnomes do.
Show us.
Okay, follow me. This is where all our work is done.
So what are you going to do with all these underpants that you steal?
Collecting underpants is just phase 1. Phase 1, collect underpants.
So what's phase 2?
Hey, what's phase 2? Phase 1, we collect underpants. Yeah, but what about phase 2? Well, phase 3 is profit. Get it?
I don't get it.
You see, phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3, profit.
I get it. No, you don't, fat ass. Do you guys know anything about corporations?
You bet we do. Us gnomes are geniuses at corporations.
All right, so there you go. We're geniuses at it. So let's talk about how lead generation works. So if you look at, you have to understand the process a prospect goes through buying so that you can create your selling process. And so if you look at this, I call this gray, bluish area the zone of dissatisfaction. That's called the zone of dissatisfaction. Down here at the bottom is utopia. That utopia means that prospect has no need, no want, no desire. I don't care what kind of offer you put in front of them, they're not buying. I just went out and bought a new car. If the dealer down the road sends me a great sales letter, and he can send me a sales letter every week for the rest of the year about his wonderful cars that he's got $1 over invoice, I'm not buying because I just bought a car. I have no need for a car, right? So down here is utopia. There's no perceived need. They're not going to move. They're not going to buy. And some of you have hopefully clients that are in that zone, meaning they're loyal to you, and it doesn't matter what MSP markets to them, tries to sell to them, whatever, they're staying with you because they're very happy, okay? Now up here, opposite it, is threshold. Threshold's where the prospect finally gets to enough is enough and they make a decision to buy. It's usually they've got to get into such an emotional state. In selling loss prevention, they got to be really PO'd, or they got to be really worried, anxious, upset, scared. And they can move through this really slow, or they can move through it really fast, okay? But the process is the same. So up here, and I estimate about 1% to 3% of any marketplace is actively looking to replace their IT provider at any given time. It's like a big Ferris wheel. You know, people are getting on and getting off. You know, so it's always evolving. You know, someone makes buys and then they're back down to utopia. They're not going to buy anything, or they're getting ready to be dissatisfied. And when they get close to threshold, that's where they get into that competitive selling situation. That's where if I decide I need to switch IT providers, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you, right? So I'm looking, and by the way, based on my research and talking to people who buy managed services, most of them look at about 5 or 6 websites. They narrow it down to 2 or 3. And that's kind of it. And then they pick from those, you know, those 3 that they get quotes from. That's the average. That's not everybody. Some people just get a referral and they only call you. So that you know, and then there's people that look at 10 and get quotes from 5, and you know, it's a bigger process. But the average is they look at 5, they call 3, and they get quotes and decide from those 3 that they call. And usually, by the way, there's only 1 or 2 that actually follows up, because that's a whole nother situation. But when you're here, you're in a competitive selling situation, because I'm actively looking, I'm getting quotes. I'm not just going to look at you, I'm going to look at you and you and you, okay? Now, the next stage of that is the cultivated opportunities. And this is a stage where somebody is dissatisfied with their vendor, but they got the other things that are more important. They're too distracted. It's just they're kind of putting it off to the side because they got other things that they're focusing on. But if the right offer came along, if somebody was persistent enough, we could get that person to buy. Does that make sense? Right now, all of you, think about it, don't say it out loud, but all of you, if you think about a vendor, think of one of the tech vendors you're dealing with. There's probably one of them that you're unhappy with and grumpy about, right? But you're not actively looking to replace them. Yes? Because why? Because you just got a lot going on, and it's just going to be disruptive when you make that change, right? Like switching IT providers is not like deciding where you want to go to lunch. It's disruptive. So you got to get them up to threshold, or they're not going to make a change, okay? The other thing I want you to note from this is you cannot get rich. Listen to me. You cannot get rich. You can't grow a business based on the buy now crowd. You cannot grow a business based on the buy now crowd. See, that's what most of you survive on. It's the referrals, it's the buy now crowd. You've got to figure out if you're going to succeed in business. If you want to grow, and if you don't want to grow, then that's fine. But if you want to grow, you have to go out and cultivate dissatisfaction to get people to threshold so that they do buy from you. Okay? I'll show you in my business because I deal with it myself. How many of you, when you came to me, you bought from me, however you bought from me, were actively searching for marketing help? Like you were Googling, searching, talking to people, hey, how many of you were actively looking for me? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Look around the room. How many of you bought because I went and got you? Okay? It's we're talking about 5%, 10% of the room versus the other 90%, right? So there was dissatisfaction, but I didn't wait until you got to threshold to make the decision. I went over to that pot called marketing, and I cranked the heat up on it to make you unhappy enough to get you to buy. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not doing that to be malicious, but that's the way selling works. So when you're doing prospecting, the letters I'm giving you, and you can't do one and done. It's repetition, right? You have to. Guys, how often does the average buyer switch IT providers? 3 to 5 years. So one time when you get a wild hair up your ass because you need some money, you send out a postcard. And you think like that's going to do something. It's not. You got to cultivate that. It could be 3 to 5 years is the buying cycle. You see what I mean? Like you got to realize if that's the way people buy, your selling process has to support and match it. You can't just go out there and like be one and done. All right. So let me explain in a real situation how lead generation works so you can understand the buying process. So when I bought, not the house we're in, but the previous house, it was a new house, new construction. and I needed a landscaper. So we found a landscaper, it was a referral. He comes in, puts fire pit in, stone path, trees, garden, whole 9 yards. And I'm happy, did a great job. Was thrilled, looks wonderful. So, of course, then he says, all right, well, we're going to do the maintenance. So we'll do weeding and grass cutting and trimming the head, all this stuff, okay? No problem. I said, great, I don't mind as long as one thing, and that is that you can only cut the grass on Mondays or Fridays, because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I do a lot of webinars, I do a lot of seminars. My office in the old house was on the base. I had the whole bottom level was mine. I had a big basement floor office, but I had a huge bay window, and there was the garden path was along there, so I was looking out over there, and I said, you can't cut the grass, because the other thing, because the path was right in front of the window, they come with the blower. You know how loud that blower is, right? And I got 2 Jack Russells, and they lose their mind when that thing, they're climbing the glass, right? So I'm like, I can't have you in the yard doing that, because the dogs are in the office, and and I just, okay, no problem. So things are great. Until he decided to show up on a Tuesday, and I'm in the middle of a webinar, and I'm thinking, why are they here? I can't stop. I can't tell the webinar, hey guys, hold on a second. I got to go yell at my landscaper to stop, So while I'm talking, I'm literally texting my husband saying, get down here and get these guys out of the yard, because I'm going to we're going to have a problem. So I start to get kind of annoyed. I'm very annoyed, right? And I'm moving from utopia up to being a little bit in the zone of dissatisfaction, okay? Now, when vendors screw up, when you screw up, what do you do to the client? What happens? What do you do?
Apologize and make a deal.
No, you apologize. Yeah, I'm so sorry. You bring cookies. Will never happen again. I've whipped the guy that, made the mistake. He's hanging on the shackles in the back room, whatever, right? So, okay, they apologize. They get back on schedule, things are fine, okay? The next problem started coming where they weren't showing up on the right day, but they weren't showing up at all. So, they're supposed to be here on Monday, they're not showing up, and they're not calling, they're not saying, hey, we're gonna be late, the grass is up to here, we're getting letters from the homeowners association, the dogs are getting lost in the yard, all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, you need to, then they tell, we had Billy Bob called in sick, and Jeffy's mother died, and, I'm down a guy, and our lawnmower broke. They tell you all that. And by the way, whenever vendors tell you that, here's what I tell them. Look, if I wanted to deal with all the problems in your business, I would own your business, right? I'm not here to learn about your problems. I outsource that to you, so you deal with it, right? But so I'm getting irritated, and of course they apologize. We're going to make it right. And, but you notice, I'm staying in that zone of dissatisfaction. I'm not unhappy enough to go look for another landscaper. I got a lot going on, but I'm not totally thrilled. Next problem came is in the summertime, a little doggy pool out there. This is before I had kids, right? So I had the little doggy pool out there, and they cut the grass, and they put all the grass clippings in the pool, and it was irritating me because I'd have to dump this plastic pool out and refill it. I'm like, guys, can't you see pool? Don't blow the grass into... so I'm getting irritated again. And of course they apologize and, hey, we're going to make it right, but nothing's making me happy. At this point, it's multiple things. And that is, by the way, I am describing not only how do you win a prospect, because while their vendor is making them, what's building here? I'm building towards threshold, right? I'm not there yet. So if someone was prospecting me for landscaping, if they gave up on me, they're going to lose it. But if they stay with me, right? And this is also PS, by the way, how you lose clients. Because it's usually not one big thing. It's usually a whole lot of little things that add up, and then they say, forget it, I'm done, right? So you got to pay attention to the details. Great book on this, by the way, sidebar. Broken Windows, Broken Business. Everybody in this room not only needs to read it, but buy it for your staff and force them to read it and quiz them on it. Because it's all the little tiny things that add up that cause you to lose. So anyway, but the big moment when I finally hit threshold happened the day when I was 7 months pregnant, and we had the basement. It was a 3-level house. Second level, we had a deck, and I was upstairs, and I was letting the other Jack Russell, not Zoe, but my other one, Ozzy. I was letting Ozzy out, and I opened the door. And as I opened the back door to let him out on the deck, which had steps and goes out there, I look off in the distance, and he and I at the same time see a guy walking his dog. Now, Jack Russells they're crazy. Do you know, anyone here have Jack Russells? They are batshit crazy, okay? And they're good with people. They hate other dogs, like hate other dogs, right? And I always think one of these days, I'm amazed they've lived as long as they have, because I always thought one of these days you're going to write a check you can't cash, right? Because he's this little 14-pound ball of energy. So he sees this other dog, he sees this guy walking, and he starts losing his mind. He runs down the steps, goes out in the yard, and right out the open gate that the landscaper had left open. What's bad enough, because I know he's going down there to attack that other dog, so I got that issue. But what's worse is as I watch him running across, it's like an open grass, there's a street, the guy's walking the dog on the other side, there's a car coming. And I'm watching this. And I knew. I'm watching it, and he's not going to, and I'm 7 months pregnant, screaming like a lunatic, trying to run down the steps, to waving my arms. I can't catch him. There's no way. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch my dog get hit by a car. And anyone who's a dog owner, you know exactly how I feel, right? So what happened, though, the good news is he didn't get hit because the guy walking the dog heard me, turned, saw what was going, and stopped the car. That's the only reason he didn't get hit. Right? So I go down there and I scoop him up and I carry him like a football down the sidewalk to the front of my house, and I walk to the mailbox where some landscaper had left a little baggie. You know how they do that? They leave the baggie with the little note in it and a rock so it won't blow away, right? And they left it there, and I grabbed that and I walked inside and I called that guy and said, look, if you can get out here every week cutting grass, you got the job. Now, that guy thought he just did the most brilliant marketing campaign in the world. Like, he's telling his friends, like, you can't believe it. This thing is amazing, right? I didn't even care. There was nothing special. It was timing, because at that point, I was at threshold, and whoever showed up at that point, they got the business, because I'm busy. And that's really kind of a lot of how selling happens and why you need repetition. So really, what you're trying to do with all the marketing, whether you're doing seminars, direct mail, if you're doing content marketing, anything you're doing, you're trying, the secret to successful lead generation is bringing latent dissatisfaction to a boil. That's what you're doing. So again, key point I put in the slide, you can't get rich on the buy now crowd because there's just not enough of them for the reasons I just stated, right? And when they go to buy, the market is saturated, so they got tons of choices. So once they get to the point where they decide, well, now their mind flips. And now they are, they're going to say, I'm going to make a decision. And the default for almost everybody is not to buy right now. So lead generation is you got to get them up to the boil, and you got to get them across that threshold. That's with a strategic sales and marketing process, because if you're just waiting for the obvious and the low-hanging fruit to come, you're not going to succeed. Does everyone understand that, right? Okay, so let's talk about creating your cybersecurity marketing plan. And the first thing, so we're going to go to that, we're going to get to that spreadsheet. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this, okay? I'm going to walk you through, here's what the campaigns I want you to send out, when to send them out, how frequent to send them out. All that's mapped out for you, okay? Good news, right? But the first thing we got to do is get your house list organized. Because the single biggest problem everybody has, everybody is list related when they first start coming to me for marketing. I've never had anybody come to me where they had their list organized. It was, some people actually have a good list, they just haven't been marketing to it. So it's not categorized properly, you know what I mean? But some people have been in business for 20, 30 years, and they don't have a list. No list. Surely you've bumped into at least a couple hundred people over 30 years. Where's the list? No list. And what's even worse is there's prospects that they've talked to who didn't buy, and you just assume that they go to a competitor, right? They didn't buy from you, so you think, oh yeah, they go to a competitor. No. A lot of them don't do anything. They just go back and make no decision. Or they maybe go to that competitor, and it doesn't work out, and they're in the same situation they are. If you stayed on them, you might get that business back. Life is long. I get clients that that reactivate out of nowhere. I get somebody who back in 2002, I met them at an event somewhere, and they bought the toolkit, and they're at boot camp. And I'm like, well, what happened in between? They're like, sitting on a shelf, whatever. Then here's what it always is. It's some life event. Always happens. All of a sudden, they wake up and they realize they're near retirement, and their business isn't worth crap, and they have no money, and they're desperate. Or they just lost a big client, 2 clients, 3 clients. Or their kids got to go into school, some college, and they can't afford it. That's always what drives people back to me. It's never like ambition. You know what I mean? Well, not never. I mean, there's some, but it's usually shit hitting the fan, right? That's really what I call this. I should rename the toolkit the shit hitting the fan plan to get you out of trouble. But anyway, I digress. The biggest issue is list related, okay? And one is that they don't have a list. You've been grossly negligent about adding prospects into a CRM and following up with them and staying in touch with them. In fact, it's in various different places. It might be in your Outlook. There's probably a stack of business cards with a rubber band around it sitting somewhere, either in a desk drawer or on your desk. Yes. They're not in a CRM. It's not something you've been working on. The other problem I see is there's no easy way to segment your list. So if when they start trying to do campaigns, they don't have the list organized right, so they're sending the stupid, irresponsible, or bad date campaign to clients. I'm not kidding you. They go to Info USA, they rent a list, and by the way, it's up to sometimes 40 to 60% incorrect. They got clients on it. They're sending the stupid, irresponsible, got their own client responding to their own marketing. Oops, there's a warning, right? Or they, or they can't, or they're doing a webinar on cybersecurity, and they got clients going, hey, I got your email about coming to the cybersecurity. Is this something I should be on? I thought you were doing, and they're like, oh, no, sorry. So when you don't have your list segmented, where you can't pull a list of people, let's say how many in here sell voice over IP, right? Well, one of the things you ought to be able to do is pull a list of all the clients who have bought something from you, but not voice over IP, and do a campaign to them. Well, why not? And not just do it once, but pull it out every 6 months. Why not? Well, they told me no. What, 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah, they said they didn't want it. Well, people change, time change. So you got to be able to segment your list and pull a list appropriately for marketing. And there's a lot of bad hygiene. They don't have email addresses, phone numbers. They don't have titles, so we don't know who the IT person is and who's the CEO and who's the CFO. A lot of missing and wrong data, and buying history and everything else. So the list, by the way, is that now in marketing, marketing is never, when you look at any campaign, you can't say it's one thing. Because really, marketing is a matrix of things that have to be correct in order for it to work, right? So for example, you come to me and you say, Robin, give me the email that I can just shoot out there and get referrals. Okay? Well, okay, here's one, but I give it to you, you do fantastic. You're like, holy shit, I got 20, 30 referrals. I could barely keep up. She sends it out, she gets nothing. And I'm not saying you, because I love you. I love you. I'm not saying that. But it may be, okay? Well, why is that? It's the same, well, it has to do with timing. Maybe she sent it out the day before Thanksgiving. Maybe, depends on who else is talking to them. Of course, it depends on your relationship with it depends on maybe how you phrased it. So there's a matrix of things. Who else is talking to them? How satisfied, how close the relationship, how connected they are. He might have clients that are in medical and they're very referral based. She might have clients that are mostly, manufacturing, and they're not as connected as medical, because medical, doctors are used to referring to each other, so that's more in their nature, right? You see what I mean? So it's a matrix of things to get a campaign to work, and that's why some of you may send out a campaign and it flops, and it's the exact same campaign you've heard 3, 4, 5 others do, and it works beautifully, right? It's because you got to get it all right. But one of the things that is consistent is your list, and you really have to be militant about list hygiene. and more importantly, the relationship with your list. Because when you have a really good list, if you need money, you need referrals, you can send an email to the list. You can do that very quickly if you've done the hard work of building a relationship with a qualified list. Does that make sense? I heard someone, I'm an amateur gardener, so we moved into a bigger house, and I started, the first time I've ever done this, I put a garden in the back. It was okay. I'm learning, right? And I'm reading a book on gardening. And it was something that was really interesting. They said a bad gardener grows weeds. A good gardener grows vegetables, but a great gardener grows soil. Because the soil is what makes everything else flourish. A seed will flourish if it's in really good soil, right? And so really, if you want to be a great marketer builds the list, because the list is like the soil. Okay, the list, now we got to have the right offer, and we got to have the right timing, and we got to use the right media, and all those things too, right? So it's not only the list, but the list is the soil. The list is the most, I wouldn't say most important, I'll catch myself, but it's an extremely important part of this. And if most of you are doing prospecting, you're going to have to start out cold. And so that you can build your list. And if you stay in and maintain that list over a year, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have a killer list. I'll tell you right now, I have the best list in the whole channel. You put me against any vendor out there. Anybody is selling to this channel, I got the best list. I got the most accurate, up-to-date, complete list than anybody out there. Because I got one person full-time. That's all they do is clean the list. I've got about 5 or 6 list cleaners. That's all they do is update, maintain, and clean my list. Now, that's just one piece to have accurate data and completeness, but the other part of it is you've got to market to it in a way and communicate to your list in a way where they stay engaged. Does everyone understand that? Okay. All right, so what is an asset? An asset's anything you own of value that can be turned into cash. That's Investopedia's definition. What more in your business is more valuable than your list? When you go to sell your business, and someday you guys are going to want to sell it. You might love it. You might say, I'll do it till I'm 90 and all. Someday, you're going to be thinking it. You're going to have a bad day. It's usually on the bad days, and you're like, oh, sell this mother. I'm going to get out of this, cash out. So when someone comes and buys your business, what are they buying? Are they buying your ConnectWise licenses? Are they buying your standard operating procedure manual? No, because when somebody buys your company, they throw out the operations because they bring the clients onto their platform. Right? Yes? What are they buying then? The list. Not your furniture. Like what else do you have? Right? It's your list. So that's the single biggest asset, and it's the most neglected part of your business. Think about it. What are you doing today to grow your list and tighten and keep that relationship with it? What are you doing every single day to the most valuable asset in your company? Probably nothing. Wake up. So today's the day. We're going to change that, right? So you got to do that. So number one, you got to invest in a good CRM. I love all the PSA tools, ConnectWise, Autotask, TigerPaw. They are not CRM. I love them, and they're necessary, and don't misunderstand me. It doesn't make them bad because they're not CRM. They weren't built to be CRM, but they're not CRM. Nor is Constant Contact, MailChimp, or any of the other. They're not CRM. Here's how a simple thing. Let's say we decide to do a webinar, and you want to invite your clients to a cybersecurity webinar because you're going to sell them an upgraded cybersecurity solution or managed services or whatever. And I say, okay, pull all the clients together, pull an email, do a search in ConnectWise or TigerPaw or any of them, where you can search on only the clients that are not on this level of managed services. Let's see how you do that. Or we say we're going to run a voice over IP campaign, so you want to pull all the clients who are managed services clients but don't have your phone system. Now, see, what happens is most of you have to export your whole client list to an Excel spreadsheet, pick through it, eyeball it, then import it somewhere else, right? Some of you are shaking your head. Like I'm seeing like people grinning because they've tried to do it. That's not, see, a good CRM, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to really easy do Boolean searches, that just in that and of itself. There should be workflow automation. So let's say we could pull that list of we've got 50 clients we're gonna invite to this webinar. We send out an email. We get 5 to register. Can you easily send a second email to only the 45 who didn't respond and register? How easy is that? Do that in ConnectWise. Do that you can't, right? You can't. Or how about this? You hold a webinar, so you want to send a second email, you send a second email, you segment the people who've registered, but then you're limited on resources. You got one sales guy. Show me how you can pull the list of people who clicked but didn't register. Because if within my business, we got thousands. I got a couple salespeople. So we're going to call the people we know that clicked, because I can't have them call 8,000 people we invited, but I could have them call the 100 that clicked but didn't register. Do you see how much smarter I can be with my resources, right? So that's why you need a good CRM. Yes, I sell Infusionsoft. You can use Microsoft Dynamics. You can, I would just say don't use Salesforce. The amount of money you'll have to spend to get the development to get it to work, it's more than any of you need. I've been on Salesforce, I'm telling you. But Microsoft Dynamics, there's Infusion. So I'm not saying you have to buy from me, but you need a CRM. Okay, you just need a CRM. Step 2, clean up your client list. Here's the information you ought to have on every single client: full name and title, primary contact, company name, mailing address, email address, phone, type of business. Because if there's a hack of a CPA firm, you want to contact every other CPA firm. Or if there's a change in the laws about HIPAA compliance, you want to pull every medical entity or covered entity that you're managing. Or prospects, right? Yes? Right? How quickly can you do that? You can if you're not classifying them as industry. Presence of an IT person or not, because this is going to get you in trouble. If you send a campaign, the stupid, irresponsible letter, or the bad date campaign to an IT director, you're going to get some nasty hate mail. It's already happened. People share them when they go, oops, I know you told me to sort these. I thought we did, getting hate mail, okay? Number of information workers and any other relevant notes, okay? The other thing, make sure you can segment your client list by the following categories in whatever CRM you have. The most important is purchase history because of the reasons we just said. So I want to pull every client here's another thing. How about you pull a list of every client that is break fix, because I know some of you still do break fix, and look, that's fine. I don't, some people are like, oh, it's you do break fix. It's like the new snob appeal. We're MSP, we don't do break fix. That's like, might as well just drink chemical waste while you're at it, I don't have it. Look, if it's profit, I know some people that do break fix that are more profitable than MSP. So I'm not saying any, but how about if you could pull a list of every client who hasn't called you in at least 2 months or 3 months? Right? That's a signal, they're not calling you. I had a client that he hires a sales guy, goes out to prospect. And he's calling on people. He comes back in the office, and 2 prospects that he ran across that said, no thanks, I'm in a contract already. He comes back because he's a new sales guy. He didn't recognize the name, finds out that they were clients of this company he's now working for. Yeah, ouch, right. Well, it's their own fault. They were break fix. Probably the guy thought they'll never buy managed services because we talked to them once about it. They said no. All right? And so, how about pulling a list or some sort of a tag or alert? If you have a break fix or a project client, they haven't called you in 6 months, 3 months, whatever the tripwire time is, you give them a call. Find out what's going on, right? Source, where did the client come from? Referral, trade show, Google AdWords. You will find differences in leads. So, for example, like a Facebook lead does, we're still doing Facebook ads, but we're negative. So far, no matter what now here's where we are doing really well, and you guys might test this. You can upload your client list to Facebook and do targeting to your clients. That's working great, right? But just cold prospecting's we still haven't figured it out yet. And so we're negative, and those leads only convert, in a sales process, they only convert about 10% of them buy, and their refund rates double. So we're still trying to figure it out. Now, leads that we get from YouTube convert 100%. I know, right? Like, I was like, I didn't know that until I started looking. I wouldn't have known if I wasn't tracking. Okay, so you will see different sources of leads bring different clients and the long-term value. That's when you can be smarter about where are you spending your time and money when you know where the best clients are coming from, right? Okay. Business type, lawyers, financial services, they have to be segmented that way. And you need to do this for reasons I just explained. You want to go to clients A who have not bought B and C and sell them B and C. You want to go to clients that bought B but not A and C. So it's called cross-selling. And if you get to any successful large MSP or IT services company, they get this because the cost of acquiring a customer is one of the single biggest expenses in a business. So once you get the customer, you want to do everything you can to squeeze as much juice out of that orange as possible. All right? Not to be hurtful, but just because, that's how you're going to grow your business. All right? So then step 4, clean up and organize your prospect list. Okay? And to clean it up, the prospects, you do the same thing. You go through your prospects, you append or you validate all the information here. Presence of IT, phone, email, etc.